Welcome to 8 Questions with. Yeah, I run a couple minutes late here, but as you see, I am joined by the sassy co-hostess with the mostest, Jennifer Tochi from the Midnight Hour. And we are here to interview Steve Rudzinski, the co-writer and director of CarousHELL and CarousHELL the Second. And Steve will be with us here in about 12, 15 minutes around that time.
Cool.
Um, Yeah, I'm looking forward to this. I did not. I know he got interviewed before, but I don't really like going past looking at other people's interviews. I like just keeping my thing going, like my questions. I don't really like going off of anybody else's interviews because I think it impairs it. So, um,
You like doing your thing.
huh? You're
You
right. I'm
like
not.
doing your thing.
Oh, all right. Hey, Dion, Darian, howdy. How are you? Wow. Okay, it's our new friend Darian just here. All right. He's saying hi, Jennifer. He is a new friend. He is a new friend that I was Marshall from Mellow Nomadic Adventures. He said, "Hey, you need to go over there and check this out." So I did, and Darian is a very nice gentleman. Hello, Amanda. Hello, Hobbs. Today is the first official day of the Spooktacular. I'm so excited. I'm doing my entry as soon as I get off the air here. I am doing the spooktacular. Um, and Hobbs, please feel free to run that spectacular YouTube video that you made throughout the chat all night long.
All night long. All night.
Everybody needs
All
to come
night.
and join the spectacular.
Yes, everyone does.
No lunchbox emoji. Yeah, and too bad about that, huh, Casey? But we still can say "shut up, lunchbox" a few times. Yeah, I'm glad you're here too. I hope you really like this. This is not your usual type of interview. I'm sure you probably have seen, Darian. We're just happy-go-lucky, a crew of fun people. Jennifer is one of the three people that do the Midnight Hour, along with Hobbs Horror. As you see, he's in the chat, and we run a show on Sunday nights called the Midnight Hour, like I said, and then this one here is a interview series, and we are talking to one of the nicest people. He's going to be crazy, Steve Rudzinski. He's going to be nuts. Um, he's just super fun loving. He obviously, looking at CarousHELL, him and Aleen, who came up with the idea. They're both pretty wacky. They both have really great imaginations.
Who
Uh,
could have thought up Duke?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, you know what?
it's
N-
fun.
But the real secret to that carousel, obviously, I mean, was the voiceover actor. Stephen Pinsey. That's what makes carousel work 100%. I mean, it still would have might have worked with a different actor in it doing the voiceover, but honestly, I cannot hear anybody being Duke other than Steve. Um,
Oh,
uh,
yes.
no, I just can't. It would just
That voice was perfect.
Yes. Kudos to Steve and Eileen for going with that, for casting him. He's
Yeah.
perfect. We also like to say happy birthday to our good friend, the Horror Freak 85. Steven is birthday today. So I just caught that. And happy birthday, Steven, on behalf of everybody here in our community, the people that are here. Amanda's here, Darian's here, Hobbs is here. I'm sure Mr. Bones will be here. Casey's here. Um,
Happy
so
birthday, Steven.
yeah, how fun is that? So yes, Hobbs is dropping the spectacular. It's the very first thing from the spectacular. It's the questions for the spectacular. They're great questions, super fun. Um, he did. I was hoping he would. I asked if he would, Maybe because I'm defending champ, maybe that played a little part into it. I don't know. I like to think so, ego and all that. But there is a screen queen question, but he expanded it to include any Hollywood actor, any horror actor, screen queen or a Hollywood, so the ladies can get in on the action too. Because not every. I mean, I'm sure the ladies like to sit there and say, there's some screen kings out there, but but not too many because normally they just die. That's why it's called the final girl, because none of the guys ever make it to the end of a horror film. They make it almost to the end, and then they're always like the next to last killed.
Yeah. But when that happened, my mind turned a little dirty. What am I
You,
going to do to spend time in a haunted house? It's
I,
like,
you know what? You know
huh.
what? I don't even. I knew you would come up with something sassy. But well, I'm gonna say you're gonna have to say that for the midnight hour because
Oh, I'm not
um
going to say what my answer is now.
I know you're gonna videotape it. I wonder who Hobbs is gonna do. I wonder if Hobbs will stick with his normal three. Jennifer Rubin, Fairuza Balk, and Danielle Harris. I don't know. I think he's gonna change it up on us. I think he's gonna go. I think he's gonna change up his screen queens.
Hmm.
Um, see, there you go. See, Steven's coming up there with you would probably pick someone like a Patrick Bateman, Christopher Bale. That's a good pick. I bet you see we'll see some ladies doing that. All right, here he comes. Here comes Speed Racer. He's a demon. Oh, okay, wrong show. There he is, the
Hello
man of the
there.
hour, the man, the myth, the meowie, Steve Rudzinski.
That's me.
That's you.
Hello.
Hello there, Jennifer. Nice to meet you. I'm Steve. I like your necklace.
Thank you.
It's needless to say, it feels like I'm sure I'm not the only one that feels this way, Steve. But you know what? Even without really meeting you, it feels like we've known you for the last 2 years.
Yeah.
It really does. I mean, between talking to you online, interviewing Steve Rudzinski,
Mhm.
it's just been it just feels like I've known you for a while. Um, and first of all, I have to sit there and say thank you so much for you and Eileen both. Thank you so much for creating Duke.
Aleen and I both say you're welcome.
Duke,
We were
Duke
happy to
is
bring this to life.
Duke is he is honestly, seriously, he's got to be up there in the top 5 icons now for me. As far as horror icons or whatnot, he's got to be up there with me.
Well, that's really awesome to hear. Thank you very much. Here's hoping more and more people think that way over time.
You're gonna put it like your Carousel 2 is a trip. Okay, it's a trip in a lot of different ways, and we're definitely gonna come talk about that because I didn't think you could get any stranger than the first one, but yeah, you put that one to bed early.
Good. Good.
Um, and we have some people in the chat. I'm sure. I'm trying to get something good going on here, and it's giving my computer is giving me hassles. Uh, 1 second here. So how's your day going, Steve?
I mean, fine enough. Just trying to take care of a lot of stuff. Got a big shipping of physical stuff in that I went through, added it to the inventory count, that sort of thing.
Yeah, you're going old school with this. We could talk about that real quick right now. You are doing something that I have not heard anybody in the movie business doing, but definitely in the music business I've heard, and that is you are distributing your movie, Carousel 2, the second. You're distributing it by yourself. You're selling it piece by, like basically out of the trunk of the car.
I mean, absolutely. It's not the first time I've done this. It won't be the last time. About half of my stuff is via distribution. Half my stuff is self-released. I'm definitely not the only filmmaker that does it, though. You got other guys like Dustin Wade Mills, Henry Kuto. They definitely still sell out of their own trunk as well.
That is, though it takes that takes a lot of dedication, though. I mean, it's a lot of work.
It does, but Aleen and I wanted to actually make money off of CarousHELL at some point. So since the first movie is through distribution and won't be getting us any money for a very long time, we figured if we keep the rights to the sequel, everyone that likes the first one might pick up the second. And so far, it's been working okay.
Yeah, it sounds like we're going to be talking about that because I want to go down that road. I am going to go down that road. I know some people might be a little gun shy, but that's not how we roll. I definitely want to talk about that. Just like I told you before, you're not the first one. You're not the first one that told me that. And
yeah.
actually, people here in the chat, they know that too. This is like the fourth or fifth. You're the fourth or fifth director that has worked with that person who we'll talk about, and has had trouble, which is really depressing to me. I can't tell you, in a way, it's depressing because I just it frustrates me. It frustrates me on his behalf and on your behalf because it's like you guys need each other. You need each other. You needed the distribution that Wild Eye brought. Rob needs the movies, and I don't know why there's such a disconnect. But we'll come back to that. So let's go back to the beginning, before Duke, before CarousHELL, before Shut Up Lunchbox became a household thing. I love that line. Who wrote that line? Was that you or Aleen?
I'm sorry, which line?
Shut Up Lunchbox.
I mean, that could have been either one of us. That wasn't like an explicit joke that sticks out as something that I or her went out of our way to fight for.
Believe it or not.
Wow.
Looks like we lost him here for a second.
Lost who?
Steve.
Oh, I see him moving.
See him, but I don't think you can hear him.
I mean, I'm right here.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay. So let's go back to your beginning. I mean, obviously you grew up. What was it like growing up beside your house? I mean, where did you? Were your parents creative?
I mean, I aged. I ate. It was very, very house-like where I grew up.
Were your parents pretty creative? I mean,
Not at all.
No.
My father, for most of my life, wasn't part of it, but he was a farmer and electrician, and my mother was a horrible, evil, narcissist, terrible human being who was a nurse. There was no creativity in my family whatsoever on either side.
So and so your creativity is pretty much manufactured by yourself, right?
Yeah, it was the only way to escape. Was to create my own fantasy.
I got that. So you discovered reading really early on, then?
Yeah.
Where did you read mostly?
Mostly comic books. It started off with Spider-Man when I was much younger. I was definitely more into Marvel. As I grew up, I expanded a bit into DC and indies and the other options. I read a lot of science books. I never liked fiction books. I don't know why. I don't have an answer to that. But if you put down an explanation of black holes in front of me that's 300 pages long, I dive into that instantaneously.
Yeah, I can see that. Which really makes it more that the fact that you're a creative, it makes it more a little bit more astounding, in a sense, because most creators come up reading comic books and they delve into, like for me, that's how I started too. I started in comic books, then I went to pulp books, then I went to novels, and then what have you. I didn't get into fiction, nonfiction until like 8th grade. Then I started reading history books, and then that just took over my life. So you were born in Florida. How long have you always been in Florida? Did you stay there in Florida?
I mean, I've been a lot of places. I've been to Florida, to the Pittsburgh area, to Jersey, to Texas, to California, to West Virginia, back to Pittsburgh.
So you gathered some good life experiences as you went along. I mean,
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Oh, no. I mean, I bounced around too, not like that, but I bounced around, and you do pick up things to apply to your life.
Lots of different people, lots of different culters, lots of different information that you aren't privy to if you just stay in the exact same place your whole life, for sure.
Exactly. Hello, Fairy Dust. Welcome. She wins. How are you? How are you? Just want to say hi. Mr. Bones is here. Thank you so much. Thank you for dropping Steve's link. That's awesome. So when did you get into writing? Because that obviously is probably the first thing that came after reading.
I mean, when I was I couldn't give you an age, but I definitely remember, when I was dragged to my mother playing bingo or going bowling in her bowling league, and I had to be there because there was no babysitter, and at the time she was a single parent, for what I thought was selfless reasons at the time, but that was not the case. I in the single digits, I was already terribly trying to make my own comics, either using colored pencils or crayons or markers or bingo daubers, if that's all I had. So single digits when I was trying to write something, I just never stopped for the most part. I wrote my first feature-length screenplay when I was 14. It is the worst thing I have ever done in my life, but it existed.
But that's the first. I don't know anybody that sits down. Yeah, I don't see anybody sitting down and cranking out anything, award-winning, at age, how old are you? 13, 14?
14. The worst part,
14.
though, is that I was so full of myself that I knew that someone would try to steal the script, so I sent that terrible script to the Library of Congress, and it is copywritten. So that piece of garbage exists forever in the Library of Congress. Good job, very young teenage Steve. Really happy you protected that piece of shit.
What was the story about?
I'm not going to tell you. Nope. No? That's my secret of taking to the grave, unless you're able to get it from the library yourself. If you want to do that work, go for it. But I'm
not sure how that works. I don't know if he sent out I don't know how that works. I didn't know you could do that, honestly, until you told me that. I didn't know you could anybody can send anything to the Library of Congress.
Oh yeah, you can copyright anything. That's the point. That's the point of the Library of Congress, in order to protect original works, no matter what they are, whether they're writings or video or video game or music or anything, and then it's protected for 99 years.
I know you. I just heard what you said. I mean, I did hear the anger behind it, but can I say something about that though to you? I do think it took courage to do that, Steve. Don't you?
I think it took stupidity, not courage.
No, I think it took courage.
I think it took courage too.
No, it takes courage to release something. It doesn't take courage to write something secretly and then copyright it and then just think someone's going to buy it from nowhere.
Yeah, but that's because you didn't know any better. See, that's the difference. Now, I mean, think about if you took today, Steve, and went back to yesterday, Steve, with what you know now. Come on, you can't be that. You can't be.
Tell him to not bother.
You can't beat yourself up. I think it's cool. I think it's. I don't know anybody at 14 years old that sent anything to the Library of Congress. I didn't know that. Yeah, that was. I mean, it's still there. I mean, hell, maybe you can go grab it and maybe you can make a movie out of it. I've heard people. Do you
that?
Do you have a writer's chest?
Not really. For the most part, aside from that weird example, everything that I write gets made. So it's not like I have a stack of stuff that I haven't gotten to or anything like that. I basically get the idea, write it, then make the movie.
Okay.
With the only exception to that is I did originally write a sequel to Super Task Force 1. Because when that movie first came out, it was white hot. Everyone in the fandom really got into it, and it sold really well that first month. I was like, oh, boom, I got to make a sequel, and then it died for a long time. And then it picked back up on streaming, but at that point it was too late. Yada yada. Back to the point. When the Super Task Force 1 was white hot, I did write a sequel to Super Task Force 1 called Super Task Force Gold with Evil, and that's the only movie that I've written that I didn't make when I wanted to make it originally. But financially, there just couldn't be a good justification for it.
So I take it you like Japanese animation?
Nope, not at all.
Really? Because that
No.
sounds totally. That sounds totally anime. The title sounds totally anime.
No, it's tokusatsu, which is the same genre as Super Sentai, Kamen Rider, Godzilla, Guyver.
Yeah, Patrick.
It's
Well, you
live
can tell
action.
me that.
It's live action, super silly, super special effects heavy stuff.
Okay. Yeah, I saw them. I saw last thing. Geez, I mean, obviously I know about Godzilla, but I mean, as far as that goes, simple super hentai. I mean, so like Battleship Yamato, anything live action falls into that realm. Wow. Okay. You never saw Akira?
I mean, I've seen them. I just don't like a lot of Japanese anime.
Okay.
Obviously, there's exceptions. You know, I'm a huge fan of Vampire Hunter D: Bloodlust. That movie is like the horror anime film to watch, in my opinion. It's a blast. But for the most part, a lot of anime just doesn't click with me, and I don't know exactly why that is.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's not a cultural difference because of how much I like, say, Super Sentai again. But a lot of the animation itself, I don't know. I don't know if it's too tropey in a certain way, or if it's too slow for me. But at the same time, there's other animes that are just one season. That's a whole story, and I do like that, and I'm still not as into them. So I don't have a good answer for why.
Yeah, I mean, I remember watching. I'm still being blown away, even over 20 years later. Akira is like, to me, it's like top of the chain. I mean, I don't see it as animation. I just see it as a great story. It's just a tremendous film. And then, and that was like, that was like, to me, that was a standard. And then I saw this live action clip at a video store called Attack on Titan.
Yeah.
And I'm like, holy crap, because that thing was awesome live. I'm like, and I went to the guy who was the clerk. I said, "What's up with that?" And he goes, "It came from an animated anime." And I said, "And they made a live action movie out of it?" It's just, and he says, "Yeah." I said, "This is absolutely bonkers." So you're drawing at 14, you're writing at 14. So when was your first? When did you decide you wanted to try to at your hand at making a movie, at writing a movie?
Well, I mean, I always wanted to create, as I said. It started with I want to write comic books when I'm an adult, then it became I want to write video games when I'm an adult. And then when I was 12 years old, I saw Army of Darkness, and I realized I wanted to make movies as an adult, and I never changed my mind. So around 15, got a terrible high 8 hand camcorder, made terrible backyard movies. 17, we upgraded to the mini DV Handycam. That was a big deal because mini DV was a little bit digital, and kept making terrible backyard movies, sometimes for the internet, sometimes trying to make it for release. When I was like 18 is when I made the Wolfster double feature, which was, like 2 movies about this character called the Wolfster, and they aren't very good. They haven't aged super well, but at the time, people really appreciated the movies. They thought they were funny. I was able to sell a decent amount of copies. I don't sell them anymore, but they are available in HD exclusively on stevebuster.com. Upscaled HD, the best I could, because they're shot on mini DV again, which, if you kids at home don't know what mini DV is, it's basically tape. It's just tape, not film. It's tape.
Like VHS tape.
I mean, it's a step above VHS. It's not as low quality as VHS for sure. It's definitely a higher quality than 8mm film was, but it's not like it's not even half 16mm quality. The early 2000s was a very specific taste of independent backyard filmmaking because of indie DV. Whenever you see an indie movie from the early 2000s footage, you know exactly what kind of camera they were using. There's no way around it.
Right. So, what was your first project was? What your first project? You actually sold it right off the bat.
Oh yeah, I was like, why waste the time making something and not selling it? I better actually sell something if I'm going to put all this effort and time into it.
Now, see, I don't know. Again, I don't know any other young filmmaker like that, especially at your age, that would do that. That's way ahead of the curve for most. I mean, I've been interviewing a lot of directors for a lot of years, and let me tell you, you're taking us to places I haven't been before.
I mean, I appreciate hearing that, but I'm honestly a little bit surprised because when I was that age, going to horror conventions, selling my terrible backyard movies, I was making friends with other filmmakers my age that were all doing the same thing. Like, I felt like there was a bunch of us, or at least an entire or maybe it was just this generation that I'm part of, that like all started doing it at the same time, and we've just been on a very similar path ever since then.
Oh, I'm sure there's probably been a few that have actually gone to a convention, but as far as actually, seriously going out and with the intent of selling,
no, that's what I'm talking about. They also had booths at the convention, is what I'm saying. They were doing the exact same thing as me. Like, again, like Dustin Mills, Henry Kuto. Henry Kuto was making more movies than I was at an even younger age. Like, he was 16 at these conventions selling stuff when I didn't start doing it until I was like 18, 19.
Now, were you writing between 14 and 18 was that something that drove you first? I mean, did you feel like you needed to work on your script writing or your camera technique? What was more important to you as back then?
I mean, back then I knew that my camera was terrible, so I just cared about making the scripts interesting and funny because I was so limited by what the camera itself could do and what my own skills were at the time. It could be that's a reason why, even to this day, I think one of the most important things in any movie, but especially in the indie film industry, is I think that the script is arguably the most important part of a movie. If something isn't shot super well, or the acting isn't super good, or the audio is a little off, I can still get past almost all of that so long as the script itself is good, because that's the point where there's no limits.
I do think, though, with a good script, you don't want to get it wasted by really poor acting, though, because people will focus on that and they'll just overlook the fact that there's actually a brilliant script behind it.
I mean, people focus on anything. I mean, that sort of stuff is subjective. I can't tell you how many people say CarousHELL is the worst movie they've ever seen because the acting is so terrible. And yet I have other people telling me that the acting in CarousHELL is some of the best indie movie acting they've ever seen. So there's no way you can make everyone happy or pleased. It doesn't matter. Like, I can go into 100 interviews and say, like, no, every single actor in this movie delivered exactly what I told them to deliver. Like, I wanted this to be cartoonish. I wanted this to be over the top. I wanted this to be silly. And a lot of people just don't care about that. They just see what they think is good, what they think is bad, and they're going to see Preston, the two-pop collar guy, be like, this guy fucking sucks. And none of, like, my creative or artistic intent matters, and none of Chris Proud's talent matters, because this person in their head, in their vision, that's not good. No matter what I do, no matter what he does.
I thought that's really one of the strengths of CarousHELL. Quite honestly, I just mentioned right before you got here, what makes CarousHELL just absolutely work. It really elevates it. It's the fact you cast Steve Rudzinski as Duke. I mean, that was brilliant casting. I mean, that was everything. But I want to go back to some of the other ones, like you mentioned some of your other films. Have you always been into horror comedy or horror films? I mean, has that always been your forte?
I mean, yeah, the first movie I ever saw in my entire life at the age of 3 years old was Nightmare on Elm Street, and Army of Darkness is the movie that made me want to make movies. So horror is my signature, like, period. But I definitely prefer horror comedy. That's my favorite genre. I like horror comedies. I like the fun of horror. I love the silliness of horror. I love the wackiness of horror. I like having fun with horror. I have never been a big fan of straight horror. Like, I've never been a fan of the genre when, like, I need to make you scared, Steve, because I don't get scared. So those movies end up kind of being boring to me. But when the movie at least lets me laugh or have fun with it, or even just cheer, even if it's not going for straight jokes, one of my favorite slashers, probably Friday the 13th Part 3, which is not a funny entry. It's not meant to be a funny entry, but at the same time, the characters in Jason themselves are so fun, and the kills and the scenes are so over the top and enjoyable that even though it's not a horror comedy, it still is able to become my favorite slasher movie just because it's a fun movie.
So it's important to have some laughs in it. I mean, I agree with that. I mean, you look at CarousHEll, and you're right. I mean, it's definitely very lighthearted. It's very, it's not really meant to really just, to shock and awe. It's supposed to make you laugh and, and root for Duke.
Yeah, he's the protagonist for sure.
Sure.
He's Eric Draven, and Lunchbox is that gang.
Yeah. I wish he would have brought Lunchbox back for the second one.
Lunchbox got ran over in half. And then he backed up over him just to prove a point.
I also noticed that you like kind of family movies too, that you like making those.
Well, I like wholesomeness. I love earnest, good feeling stuff. Also, like, as you know, since we're getting into the month of October, most of my career and most of my life is R-rated horror movies. I love that stuff. Like, no argument, no denying that. But that means when it becomes October, the only horror movies I watch are PG or G-rated horror movies, because I have a huge soft spot for PG and G-rated horror movies, because I think that's super fun and interesting to make something in the horror genre that isn't bloody or nudity or filled with profanity. Like, let's make something scary or fun scary for kids, and I really like that. So, and in addition to that, in terms of a creator, in terms of like recognizing this sort of market, as it were, again, Super Task Force was a family film. It was a harder PG because of the violence and like the action and stuff, but it was still PG. It was still okay for kids. Nothing in that was that much worse than a season of Power Rangers. And it ended up blowing up on streaming, and I think it's because there's a lot of demand for something on TV to put on for kids. So that kind of was part of the motivation of why I started making the Meowie movies. And I made the first Meowie Christmas, kind of out of spite, because I hated other talking animal movies for being very uninteresting and very poorly written, but having a ton of money to use. And then a Meowie Christmas, again, it did well. It did better than I was expecting. So I was able to scratch my itch of making my own PG horror movie with a Meowie Halloween and getting way more weird with it. And adults love that one. Now, I saw more of that one at horror conventions than almost anything else, even more than CarousHELL, because that movie is meant for kids, and there's still like 52 horror movie references in it, such as the character opens a puzzle box, you hear chains, see a white light, and that character disappears for the rest of the movie, and we never talk about it again. And since that was such a success, and like a stupid success for how much the movie cost, it was like $300, and I'll never lie about how much these cat movies cost. I kind of just realized, like, I can't do nothing else with this, but I don't want to fall down the pit of only making cat movies for the rest of my life. So I was like, okay, I'm going to make 3 and 4 and end the story and kind of deliver something more to the fans because they want it, and I can kind of finish telling the story where every movie matters in this weird family series, and there's actual character arcs and plot progression, but I can have an ending, and that's it. So I make what I like, and I like horror comedies, and I like family films, so that's what I make.
Well, and the most important thing,
yes.
I was gonna say you and I would have to see which one would be the bigger cat fanatic. I think I might get you though, because I own a cheetah.
Well, okay, you win there. Cheetahs are probably my favorite big cat.
See, I knew. See, I told you. See, it seems like it's like I've known you now. I've known you for 2 years. Why did I know that cheetahs would be your number one big cat?
Just because they're super friendly and also, relatively speaking, harmless compared to any other big cat. So that one I can pet and not worry about dying. And I have pets. Whenever I've done Columbus Zoo jobs for Marvel, they'd like to bring me to meet the cheetahs, especially if they have a cub.
Yeah, the Columbus has a great program down there where they pair off the cheetahs with the dogs.
Oh yeah, a lot of zoos do that now. I don't know if Columbus was the one to start it. I honestly forget, but it's a great program. It's a great program because it makes them used to people. It makes them not feel alone in the pack, and it just helps them like simmer down, basically.
Yeah, it's a tremendous. Unfortunately, you're right. I mean, as far as the cheetahs, they can be domesticated somewhat, and the poaching of wild cheetahs is a relative, it's pretty bad. It seems like everybody over in the Middle East wants to have a cheetah for a pet, and they're not pets. They're big cats, they're wild cats, and they shouldn't be in captivity. They do very poorly in captivity, really. I mean, as far as that goes, you have to monitor them and take care of them and run them and all that other stuff, instead of just, it's like having like a trophy pet. It's like takes more than that, and you shouldn't be having a cheetah as a pet. That's cool though. I like that. And so are you in Ohio now then, or is this something you did, or is this something you did in your past when you went to Columbus?
Oh no, I work for Marvel Live as Spider-Man. So from time to time, I'm traveling the whole world doing Marvel gigs and meet and greets and arena shows. And until the pandemic, one of our yearly gigs was at the Columbus Zoo. So we go there every October for Boo at the Zoo and meet kids for 3 weeks straight and get a bunch of first-hand experience with the animals backstage.
Oh, how fun is that? No, yeah. That's a good segue. So, how did you get the Spider-Man gig? I mean, is this something that you pursued out of your love of comics, or?
No, I just fell into it, which is what all of the entertainment industry is. Just blind luck and chance. My wife, her uncle ran the Shrine Circus in Pittsburgh, and he liked to get a Marvel arena show there every year. And the one year they were just like, yeah, we're sending you Spidey. If you want to get someone local to be the Green Goblin, you can. And he was like, oh, yeah, well, my niece's, at the time, fiance, I know he's super into acting and he does this stuff. Hey, Steve, do you want to be the Green Goblin? Fuck yes, I want to be the Green Goblin. What the fuck kind of question is this? So I did it, and the guy that was Spider-Man, we got along really well. At that show, he liked me, and he said, hey, Marvel's looking for another Spider-Man. He was playing Spider-Man, but he outright said, like, Steve, I'm 6'6". I look like Venom dressed as Spider-Man. I shouldn't be doing this. So, he said, give me your number and Marvel will get back to you. And you hear that 100 times as an actor, as a creator, like, oh, I'm never going to hear anything from this. And then, lo and behold, about a week later, I heard from Marvel. They're like, hey, got your information. Let's have you audition. Let's have you, talk to us. And I got the role. And that was in 2013. I've been doing it ever since.
Wow. So you've been around the world, you said?
Yep.
That must, until the pandemic. So do you have like a base? You have a base park you go, or you just travel with the troupe, or?
I mean, it depends on what they need. Sometimes it's just a meet and greet at a mall, and that's all it is. Sometimes it's a show with 4 to 6 other actors. It's not the same thing every time. In a couple of weeks, I'm going to be flying down to North Carolina to meet just one family in their home because it's a Make-A-Wish for the 3-year-old son.
Those must be really hard.
Oh yeah, they suck. I ain't gonna lie. I hate and love doing it. There's one gig, and I won't say where it is, simply out of respect. But there's one gig where they always get a few of us actors to perform at the arena. But the client also takes us to the local hospital to meet the kids in like the emergency department. And it's the ER, it's like light stuff. It's like kids that broke their leg. It's kids that like kind of got hurt just to like meet the heroes and feel a little better. But this hospital specifically also has a psych ward. And they always ask, are you guys comfortable going down there? I'm like, yes. A children's psych ward to be specific. Wow. And I always pull rank and make anyone else who is with me to go with me. And it's super hard to, see all these like 4 to 12-year-olds with scars all over their wrists or like all of their self-harm and just like they have no hope and they're completely alone. And, I'm crying under the mask most of the time. But I take the time to like sit down and talk to every single one of them to tell them how much they matter and how important they are and that I'm really happy that they're still here up to this point. And, if just one kid is sticking around because of me, that'd be nice.
Oh, I'm sure that's already, rest assured, I'm already sure that's already been taken care of. I'm sure there's been many kids that look at your visit as a highlight. And thank you for doing that, Steve.
I mean, it's part selflessness, but don't get me wrong, I also get paid. So don't think I'm a hero. It is still a job, too.
You know what? Let me tell you from someone who's walked down that path, yeah, you're a hero. I mean, yeah, you might get paid for it, but it's also,
We'll meet in the middle. I'm a hero for hire. I'm a Luke Cage Iron Fist guy.
I was going to say that we have to change your costume. You have to be Danny Rand then. Yeah, well, see, I still retain a little bit of my old comic book knowledge there. Let's see. Casey asked a question. He says, "Is it good to jump into Meowie Halloween without seeing Meowie Christmas first?"
I think you can. Like I said, if you like a Meowie Halloween and then you want to watch the rest, I do think you should go back and watch Christmas before you continue forward. But I did the same thing with CarousHELL too. While the character arcs do matter and they are continuing, and it is a forward-moving story, it's not like some other franchise like the Dog Who Saved Christmas franchise, which may be the spite I felt to maybe make these movies, where none of the movies are connected or matter at all. I still tell the story in Meowie Halloween in a way so that you don't need to see a Meowie Christmas to still appreciate and have fun with a Meowie Halloween. So if that's the one that's like catching your eye to make you want to try the cat movies, just watch Meowie Halloween right now. Like, I have no hesitation saying that you'll be able to watch it, you'll be able to laugh, you'll be able to have fun. There's a couple of callback jokes that aren't a big deal. And then if you like a Meowie Halloween and you go back, then you'll see the original jokes be like, oh, so that's okay. And then you can watch 3 and 4 because I'm an insane person.
So where do the Meowie come from?
Yes, a Meowie St. Patrick's Day.
Right.
Sorry, what did you ask, Patrick?
I was going to ask you, where did the idea of the Meowie series come from?
Short version, because it's a somewhat long story. Couldn't make anything because CarousHELL wasn't going to release for a couple of years, so I was just doing the podcast with my buddy Bill Murphy, Movie Films with Bill and Steve. It doesn't exist anymore. I mean, the episodes are still up, but we stopped doing it a couple years back. So we were watching Talking Animal Christmas movies, and I kept getting angrier and angrier because, like I said, it's a bunch of money. They were all milk toast. They weren't interesting. And the one that broke me was The Dog Who Saved Christmas, because it was just a complete Home Alone ripoff without any good jokes or humor or anything. So I got really angry and yelled at Bill during the episode of reviewing it, and I said, fuck it, I got $500 and a cat. I'm going to make my own Home Alone ripoff. But I'm a crazy person, so it's still weird, and thus the plot of A Meowie Christmas is about, oh, it's a cat that watches Alex Jones videos all day, and since she's a stupid cat, she's the only person in the world that thinks Alex Jones is correct. So she thinks 2 burglars are lizard aliens, and her rat friend is like, you are an idiot, but we have to stop these burglars.
Now that this is your, I take it the cat's really your cat, right?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. All the movies is mostly me and my cat in my house, and that's why they were so easy and so cheap to make. Like, if A Meowie Christmas wasn't so cheap and so easy to make, I wouldn't have made 3 more, you know? But it's like, oh, people like this, people are having fun with this, and it's super easy to do. You know, I set up my cat in places around my house for 3 hours and give her treats and just film her, and boom, that's all of the footage for the entire feature film. That's the best actor I've worked with aside from Duke.
I was gonna say, yeah, because I mean, you know, cats are really easy. They're gonna say the cats are really easy to work with.
Mine is. She's very food motivated.
Yes, yeah, mine is too. He's very motivated. Food motivated. So what's your cat's name? Was it a rescue?
Her name is Gizmo Cat, and yeah, I rescued her from a shelter a long time ago. It was a couple years where she was my only friend. We're very close. She's definitely daddy's girl. She used to be much fatter, but I put her on a diet, so now she's just fat instead of like dangerously fat. So I'll take that as a win if I can at least keep her there. I actually went to the shelter trying to adopt a black cat because I love black cats, and black cats don't get adopted as much, so I wanted to go out of my way to like make sure I take a black cat home. And there's no black cats. So I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna get a mature cat. I'm gonna get an older cat so that they have a forever home before they pass. No mature cats. So then I was like, well, I guess today's a bust. And I just saw Gizmo Cat, this 1-year-old cat that looked adorable and was just staring at me. And I took her out of the cage, and she immediately flopped over and exposed her stomach. And then I started driving her on the floor like she was a car. I was like, if this cat is this laid back to a stranger in this shelter, this is my cat. And the rest is I can't, history.
I hope Jennifer's taking notes because she's anti-cat.
No, you won't be after you're watching 4 Meowie movies, let me tell you.
That's right. That's right, Jennifer.
Do you prefer rats?
I
want rats in the Meowie movies too.
Oh yeah,
rats I feed to my snakes.
See, I do like snakes, but we can never have a snake because we like rats too much as pets, and having a snake even in the same house at all would cause the rats too much stress.
Yeah. That was actually my first real pet. I actually had a rat.
Rats are great. They're basically little puppies.
Yeah, they're very smart. I still got my scar. He got out of his cage, and he got jumped by a wild rat, and I found him outside the cage, and I went to pick him up without realizing that he got hurt, and he lit me up, and but that was the only time he ever did it. And then he was a great pet. He used to sit there afterwards after he got banged up. I would just sit there. My mom would give me a warm soapy cloth. I'd just sit there and lay it on his back, and then to clean it, and he'd just sit right there and just he go right to sleep. I just sit there for like 20 minutes and then change it over to keep it warm. Yeah, great pet, smart as hell.
Mm-hmm.
But I am a cat person first and foremost by far. That's great. Now you said this is the Meowie Christmas is how does it feel? I mean, how did that make you feel? I mean, you must have like me, like you said, you've done horror, you've done nothing but up to that point nothing but horror. So are you thinking about using Meowie as a launching pad to do maybe like a straight comedy? Something like that?
No, because straight comedy is too hard to sell. It's way too hard to sell if you don't have a name actor, and I can't afford a name actor. You need some sort of genre niche in order to surpass that. I mean, that's one of the reasons why at the time, because like I made Slasher Hunter that I released in 2011. I made Everyone Must Die, which I released in 2012. And at that point, I was like, okay, if I don't do something different right now, I'm going to be forced to only make horror the rest of my life. And as much as I like horror comedy, I didn't want to do only that. So that's why in 2013, I made Super Task Force 1. I was like, I'm going to make my tokusatsu right now. Just kind of get out of the way so that, like, very early on, people are like, okay, this guy does different stuff. So that way in the future, when I do different stuff, it's not as weird. I'd say the closest thing outside of the Meowies that I got to just a straight comedy was Captain Z and the Terror of Leviathan. That was a movie I got hired to write and direct. And it still has horror elements, obviously, because that's kind of my bread and butter. But at the same time, it's way closer to Army of Darkness plus Doctor Who, rather than CarousHELL being more like Evil Dead 2. But even then, again, like that's kind of the point I was trying to make. I lost it there, is that even my most straight comedy movies still have horror elements. So unless I'm doing something very specific, like say Meowie Christmas, St. Patrick's Day, Christmas Vacation, which like is a completely different genre on purpose, if I'm not doing a completely different genre on purpose, anything I make is probably going to have horror elements because that's what I like.
So I like to ask this question because I'm really curious about it. But what is the writing process like for you? So like a typical day, like today, you wake up and you're going to be writing. So what's your day like? What do you do? What do you have certain steps? Do you have routines?
Sometimes it depends on the script. Super Task Force 1, I thought of the entire script in my head and I wrote the entire thing in 4 hours, and that was my final draft, and that's what I shot to the screen. Something like CarousHELL is more of a let's really take our time with this, and even that doesn't take too long. And that's when Aleen and I sat down. We were like, okay, what's the basic plot outline? And that's usually 2 pages long. Just hitting the biggest story beats. Then we come up with a list of character ideas, just anything that makes us laugh, and then we pick almost all of them, but definitely the best of the best, and put them in. And then just sit down and start writing the script straight through. And then that usually takes me anywhere from, depending on the script, 3 days to 7 days to write the first draft. And then I sit down with 2 other people who had nothing to do with the movie and read it with them and kind of see if the jokes land, what works, what doesn't work, and if they have any, opinions. A great example is when I was writing CarousHELL 2. At first, Bill Murphy, who read it with me, was saying like, I don't know how well this is going to sell to the fans, Steve, because like at that point, it had been so long since someone died that he was afraid that people were going to completely lose interest and not care about the film. And then by the time we finished the script, he's like, you know what, never mind, because you actually deliver really big in the ending, and I think that's what matters. I think that's going to bring people back, and they're not going to, anyone that wasn't a fan of the non-killing parts, they're won back with the ending. But I still took his advice to heart. And that Karen kill during the father and son montage, I added specifically because Bill pointing out a very true fact that it's been a long time since someone died. And if I don't put something here, it's going to be even longer between kills. That being said, my first draft is usually 90% of my final draft. I barely change anything.
Now, I mean, are you open to people's suggestions? I mean, you said you have 3 people, but I mean, you listen to those people, right? I mean,
absolutely. I am not so narcissistic to think I always know the best thing to do. I do not think I always have the answers. It is definitely a team effort, especially in movies. Scott Lewis put it great once in an interview, or maybe on like the CarousHELL bonus feature, but he said, Steve listens to everyone on set. If we were filming CarousHELL in this backyard, of this house that we were renting, and a neighbor from across the street walked across the street with an idea, Steve would probably listen to that person and at least try it. And if it worked, he would keep it. And I take that as a compliment, honestly, because again, I've worked with a couple of people in my past that they definitely did have the attitude of, I know best, I know exactly what I'm doing, I'm not listening to anyone, and it is not for the better. I've never seen it truly work for the better, where one person is truly completely making every single decision on a creative project. And so I'm going to, if an actor wants to deliver an improv line, I'm going to let them. If Scott Lewis has an idea for a shot, I'm going to listen to him and see what he has to say. Sometimes there's specific stuff that I want. Sometimes there's specific shots that I want. Sometimes there's specific jokes that can't be changed. But overall, I'm going to keep listening to people and listening to advice and listening to every voice that I can in order to make the best project possible. I always say that if the movie's good, it's because of the whole team being great. If it's bad, it's my fault.
How did you like being hired to write a movie? I mean, did you feel like did you feel any creative was your creativeness stifled by it? Did they have an idea of what they wanted and they just wanted you to write to the specifications? Or
I mean, it was an interesting experience because it was basically a case where he wanted to make a movie about this character that he played for his father's jewelry store commercials, which already I'm like, okay. So I asked him, okay, Zoltan, you have to answer this question because it's very important to what I can or can't write. Is it actually a pirate from like the 1700s, or is it just like an actor that thinks he's a pirate? No, he's actually a pirate from the past. Okay, cool. And then like I just talked to him like, okay, well, what do you want the threat to be? And then we went back and forth until we finally came up with, he wanted zombies at first, but I was like, that's out of your price range. You cannot afford enough zombies to make a zombie movie. So I kind of was able to convince him to do basically Deadites. So it's like a family possessed by demons, so that way they can talk. They can also explain what's happening. They can also explain the plot, and it takes some of the burden off of the lead characters. And aside from that, he was just like, all right, write it. I'm like, okay. And so I wrote that script in 2 days and showed it to Zoltan. And I still think that movie feels like a Steve Rudzinski movie. He absolutely let me have my own creativity, and in his own word, that's why he wanted to hire me, because he liked my creativity. He liked my sense of humor. He didn't want to completely take it over and do his own thing. He wanted me to make a movie for him and with him. But I wrote the script in 2 days, handed it to him. He changed maybe 10% of the script, like maybe, and otherwise most of the Captain Z movie is purely my creativity, aside from, him developing with me the overall basic plot and the lead character being his, and also one side character that he added to the movie, and I fucking hate that character, and Scott Lewis, and I hate that character. But he was the producer, so the character's in the movie.
We have a question here. I'm going to read this off real quick. How do you come about finding your actors for upcoming films, and have you ever switched actors during filming? That's a really good question. Have you ever had to deal with that, replacing talent during the shoot?
I mean, if we're including like my horrible backyard high school movies, yeah, because it's like my friend that I'm getting to act as this character, and then he stops being available, but I want to finish making the movie. So I just recast the character and explain it away as like, oh, he shapeshifts or something dumb like that. In terms of like like my actual career from Slasher Hunter onwards, fortunately, no, that has never happened. I've never had to recast after we began shooting. That's never been an issue. We've never had an issue with anyone backing out or breaking contract or anything like that. I don't even have to do the trick of like one trick with the indie scene, and I think it was Lloyd Kaufman's advice. I may be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it was Lloyd Kaufman. The trick of like, hey, if you have nudity, shoot the nudity day one, so that way, if the actress suddenly doesn't want to do the nudity anymore, you can just recast her, and you haven't shot a bunch of scenes with her yet.
Oh, right.
I haven't had to do that. I shoot the nudity like 5-6 days in, but I just guess everyone is comfortable enough with me that that's never fucking happened. So I don't know what that says about trauma. Just gonna lay that out there on that platter. As for like casting, I post casting calls. I always do open castings for all of my movies. I never write ethnicities for anyone. I'm always open to anyone auditioning for any role unless it's like age specific. You know, I had on Captain Z, I had one guy that was like 45, and I was like, oh, there's a role for like a 40-year-old hillbilly father and his 18, 20-year-old hillbilly son, and this guy auditioned for both. I'm like, fuck you. Like, come on, you should be self-aware enough to know you're not a 20-year-old boy.
Right.
So he didn't get it wasn't a good audition anyway, but that's an example that sticks out to me.
Right.
You cast 30-year-olds as teenagers.
Oh God. Yeah. That's the bane of existence, isn't it? It's like watching Beverly Hills 90210 and look at all and like, yeah, you're not really a day past 27.
Yeah. That's why my movies don't have teens. They're always about young adults. None of my horror movies have been about teenagers or kids unless they're explicitly a child, like Lunchbox.
Where did you find him at?
Again, I was just, I posted casting calls. I posted on like all the local city Facebook pages. Until it was no longer a viable option, I even posted the casting calls on Craigslist and just get headshots and resumes in, and we got several kids that sent in being interested for Lunchbox and auditioned for Lunchbox, and he was just one of them. I don't remember specifically which page like his mother found us on, but yeah. He in his headshot, he was wearing his Trilby hat, and as soon as I saw that kid wearing that hat, I was like, I fucking hate this kid. I want to punch him. He's perfect. And he also auditioned well, and like he was funny. And then before we started shooting, his mother said, "Hey, do you want him to wear the hat for the movie?" I was like, yes, bring that fucking hat. And then she let us keep the hat, which is why I was able to make a cameo in CarousHELL too.
I was gonna say, is that the reason why he got backed up twice, because he wore the hat to the shoot?
Well, to be fair, I told him to wear the hat. I just wanted I wanted that scene to be everyone gets really mad because they think this piece of shit kid survives, and then everybody gets what they want. That's what I wanted that to be. And that first screening of CarousHELL, I've never heard cheers louder than when Lunchbox gets hit by a car. It was deafening.
Yeah, it was pretty loud in my house too. Let's see, we got I think we got another question. Which do you find easier to work with, animals or humans? And how many animals have you worked with on an average with the films? Isn't it just basically one? I mean, Gizmo, right?
No, Meowie Christmas had Gizmo Cat playing Whiskers. We had Cheetah the Rat playing Chuck the Rat. I also worked with Butters the Cat, who is Kevin the unboxing YouTube cat. Because it was a movie for kids, so I wanted to reference the unboxing video culture because I'm down with the kids. And two more cats in that one, Cleveland and Cleveland and I don't even remember the joke. It was the two presidents after Garfield, because we were like Garfield the cat, Garfield the president. So the two presidents after Garfield are the names we picked for these cats. I can only remember Cleveland. Doesn't matter. So the Meowie Christmas had that many animals. Meowie Halloween was mostly just Gizmo Cat and Cheetah the Rat again, and no other animals. Meowie 3, Cheetah unfortunately passed away after finishing Meowie Halloween. And it's bittersweet to always watch those movies because she was my heart rat for sure. So in Meowie 3, it's Gizmo Cat back as Whiskers the Cat, and then two new rats, Russ and Audrey. Then in Meowie 4, those rats who are our rats had babies. So then there was 8 more rats in the 4th Meowie movie. And there's also a bird that we worked with in Meowie 3 for a bird joke.
Okay.
Oh, and a hedgehog. I'm sorry. I forgot about Pammy the Hedgehog, who was introduced in Meowie Halloween. So there's also a hedgehog in 2, 3, and 4.
That's pretty extensive for live animal act. I mean, for live animal, that's...
Yeah, I was going to bring it. I was going to half-ass it. My budget's small, but that doesn't mean
That's a lot.
My budget's small, but that doesn't mean my enthusiasm has to be small.
Now, what city are you based in right now?
I live near Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
So what's the film community like in Pittsburgh? I mean, is there...
Weird. It's really weird.
How so?
Pittsburgh claims to be a hub of creativity that supports other Pittsburghians. I don't know if that's what people from Pittsburgh are called, but that's what I'm calling them, Pittsburghians. And like that they lift each other up. But I've definitely have always noticed, like, I get interviewed by people all over the world. I got people in other cities being like, Steve, please come on the podcast. Whenever I go to another city for a screening, the local newspaper there will like go out of their way to try to talk to me. I get a lot of press and coverage and support everywhere except Pittsburgh. I tried contacting like 10 major local news agencies about CarousHELL 2, and one got back to me, which is like 100% more than usually gets back to me. Whenever I try to post or advertise the stuff locally in Pittsburgh, it's always a really bad turnout. A lot of people don't seem to care. They don't really care about the indie smaller stuff compared to other cities. Now, it's not a terrible city. I don't dislike living here. It's cheap. The tri-state area is great for filming because there's so many different locales and locations and stuff that I can use. So I don't mind this being my home base, but in terms of like hometown success, it is way smaller than what I get in pretty much any other city I go to with my movies, and I'm not exactly sure why. Because it's not just me. I've talked to other independent creators in the city, and they echo pretty much the exact same thing.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, let me tell you a secret that happens everywhere. It's like that everywhere. It's like it's the grass is greener over the hilltop mentality. But within
it's great if everybody, if like when a person succeeds, but as if you're in their town, no, that's not good.
Mm-hmm. That's what it seems like. Now, don't get me wrong, I definitely get some love from other people in Pittsburgh. Tim Gross has been one of my greatest champions of my success and my films for as long as I've been making them. He's been watching my stuff since the Wolfster movies, and he has always posted about me and promoted me, and he always has me as a special guest at his horror convention, Gross Fest, which if you're in the Pittsburgh area, when it comes back, if the pandemic ever slows down even a little, it's a great small show to go to, and there's a lot of great people. It's a great community there.
How do you like doing the convention circuit? When you get a chance to.
Yeah, when I get a chance to again. I mean, for the most part, I like it, but it's exhausting. Like, if I could make that same money not leaving my house, I probably would not leave my house. But that's not to deny how fun it is to actually meet people face to face, to see how much they enjoy the movies, and also try to convince complete strangers to try my stuff out that they've never seen or heard of before. You know, if it's a convention where I have a screening at, I love to go to the screenings and watch my movies with a room full of people that are a mix of fans and a mix of people that have never seen it before, and just seeing the reactions. Also, I don't drink too much year-round, but at horror conventions, I am shit-faced by noon on a Saturday because people keep bringing me alcohol, and who am I to say no? So it's a rare opportunity for drunk Steve to come out, and I'm a much better salesman when I'm drunk.
So I want to talk a little bit. Obviously, I mean, I know you're tired of it, but I hope I come up with some couple of interesting questions. But so how you know Aleen, and how did you meet Aleen for first and foremost? How did you meet her?
Well, I wrote Everyone Must Die with another creator at the time, Derek Rothermond. And as we were writing the script, we were talking about who we wanted to cast, kind of what we had envisioned for the characters. And one of the things I remember saying was like, okay, so if I was watching Everyone Must Die, like, and I didn't have anything to do with it, if I was watching Everyone Must Die, this character, Wanda, would be the character I had a crush on. So that's how I kind of wanted to cast the character. So, you know, we got headshots and auditions for the movie, and one of the actors was Aleen Isley, who was putting in for Wanda. And as soon as I saw her, I was just like, all right, I have a crush on this girl, so this is perfect. So we started talking, and to make the story shorter, we were both having a crush on each other at the exact same time, but neither one of us wanted to say anything because I didn't want to say anything because I was going to be her boss, and that's kind of a power dynamic that I didn't want to take advantage of. And she didn't want to say anything because she's trying to be in my movie, and she doesn't want to like try to hook up with me and have that be the reason why I cast her or something.
Right.
So she auditioned. Derek and I both picked her objectively. Derek also said that she's the best person for this role. And then Aleen and I kept on talking for a while. We had a lot in common. We were getting along really well. We had really good chemistry. And I finally just said, you know what? Fuck it. I don't give a shit. So asked her out, and we hung out and clicked really, really well, really, really quickly. That's how we met. But she got the role before she slept with me. That's very important to point out.
Very important. You don't want to be known as, yeah. So she's also a creator too. So when she came up with CarousHELL, she came up to you and said, I have an idea. And then you guys brainstormed it?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah,
okay.
She came up with the title, and she came up with the character of Duke and the motivation.
Yeah, that's brilliant. I mean, it's absolutely brilliant. It's definitely, that's just one. She hit it out of the park, that's for sure.
Oh, I agree completely.
So the first movie, I know you've been talked about that for the first movie, but let's go. I just want to touch bases because it's going to go into the second movie. But the first movie has one scene that everybody talks about not because there's nudity in it, because like you said, there's nudity in all the horror films, and it's like that's not shocking. But what's shocking is that the character of Duke, who's a unicorn, basically gets it going with a girl.
Yes.
That was like the absolutely bonkers scene. How? I just want to hear how. I mean, you told me before, but I want to hear how you filmed that. Well, actually, Steve did. Steve told me too. But I mean, you told me. But how did you end up filming that scene?
I mean, it was just a case, where I talked to Haley. It was like, here's what we're gonna do. Here's the plan. We're gonna go as far as you're willing to go. You can keep. It's not actual sex. We're gonna have as few people on set as possible. That day, all we did was everyone else was gone out of the house. So we killed Pierre, then we killed Margot, and so they were done. And then we went to eat, and then we came back for the whole rest of the night to just be Scott Lewis on camera, me as the director, Aleen wasn't on audio. Josh Miller, who is friends with Haley, stuck around for audio because they knew each other already. And then Aleen was on like lights and like making sure we can do the lights. And then Haley and Duke. So it was a very, very small number of people. And we just kind of had fun with it. I mean, this was not Haley's first rodeo. She has had more than one weird sex scene up to this point. She was a pro, although she did say this was the weirdest sex scene she's ever done. And I was very proud of that. There's lines that she did, there's improv that she did, and then it was just like, hey, let's just go in order. All right, we got to pull the panties down, and the hoof has to slap her ass, and then okay, well, we got this wide shot of the doggy style, so it's me on my knees behind Haley holding this whole ass fucking horse on my shoulder, just doing this. And like, don't get me wrong, Duke is hollow. It's not like he's 200 pounds or something, but he's still thick plastic, and he's fucking huge. So it's like a minute of me doing this to the point where I'm just like, is that enough fucking footage? As he's falling on top of me. And then just coming up with random position ideas.
Now,
I think Haley was the one that came up with the cowgirl, and that's my favorite one.
By this time, though, did you shoot that with a digital camera?
Oh, yeah, we shoot everything digitally, yeah.
Okay, yeah, okay. Yeah, that's the weirdest sex scene, but wait till she sees the second one.
Well, it's the weirdest sex scene she's been in, so that's still fair.
Oh, okay, yeah, because yeah, you crushed it the second one.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to, so where's I mean, you alluded to where Duke came from. I mean, where did you guys decide? Who came up with the idea of taking Duke back to the? Because in the first movie, we see Duke, and he's just basically he's this relentless killer. Anybody gets in his way, he's taking care of business. He's killing everybody, and it was sort of weird seeing how in the second one, he sort of changed his personality to, whereas he wasn't quite as he was a little bit more discriminating as far as who he killed. I mean, and you're right, it was only one kill in the first 55 minutes. And it was like unusual, for the second one. And I was like, okay. And then you framed him. I liked how you framed him like the mom didn't know that Duke is the one that killed her kids in the first movie. And I
I
like
still have not decided if she ever finds out the truth or not. I don't know what will be funnier.
yeah, I think that would be a good, interesting dynamic for the third movie. I mean, obviously there's going to be a third one.
Well, it's not obvious. If 2 doesn't make any money, there won't be a third one. That's the thing. I gotta wait to see if people like 2 and if enough people buy 2 to justify making a third. I would like to make a third. I mean, since we were writing the first movie, we already had the basic ideas of the second and the third movie in mind. We always had this plan for Duke because to me, I don't like sequels that are just the same thing somewhere else or the same thing in the same place with the same people or the same killer or the same kind of characters. To me, sequels are interesting when they're actually part 2, part 3, when it's actually an actual arc for the character. So from the start, honestly, from the start, I always wanted these movies to be Duke's arc and his growth. So the first movie is about who am I? Oh, I'm a killer. This feels right. So I'm a killer. That's all I am. And the second movie is, oh no, I'm a father too. I'm not just a killer. There's more to life than just this one thing, doing it for fun, doing it because I want to. I need to protect my son. I need to make the world a better place for my son. So this is important. I'm going to go start protecting my son. So now I'm a protector, and that's kind of where 2 ends on. And then the third movie has always been intended to be Duke's actions have consequences. It's not just a case of like none of this matters. He killed. Duke has been the protagonist of the story from the start, but he wasn't a good person in the first movie. I wouldn't say he's the villain, but he definitely was not a good person. He may have been right about killing Lunchbox, but he killed a lot of innocent people that didn't need to die just because they annoyed him.
Right. I did notice that. I mean, it was, believe it or not, I noticed small things like that. And I liked how you had him, like, he knew when he met the mom, Robbie's mom, he knew that he really fucked up. He's like, I killed this woman's kid. And you could hear him like, he knew what he'd done. And he was like, he's in deep trouble. And, he almost slipped up a couple of times. And, but there's guilt. There is guilt there. Yes. And it was really interesting to see. And how you started making him more into like an anti-hero. And it was like, okay, that's cool and everything, but how do you ignore the fact that he killed all those people in the first movie? I mean, even though, for continuity's sake.
And to me, you don't. I mean, it's not super important in this film specifically, but you can't just ignore that.
No.
Now, don't get me wrong. If CarousHELL 2 is a success, we make 3. If 3 is a success, I'll keep making CarousHELL movie because I'm a whore and I don't care. I'll make anything that makes me money. But so long as I get this intended trilogy with this intended story arc and character arc, after that I can just have fun and it won't matter as much. Like, I'm still going to tell a good story in my opinion, but it won't be as explicitly envisioned as like, this is Duke's arc. From there on out, it'll just be like, oh, what kind of wacky adventures does he get into now? But these 3 movies, if they do all exist, is a very intended Act 1, Act 2, Act 3.
We have a couple more questions here. One from Sarajin X. How far are you going to take the CarousHELL universe? And if you can't make it through the movies, are there other avenues to take it? Books or comic books?
Again, like if my best case, my happy ending is getting to make 1, 2, and 3, and that's it. If people keep on buying it, it keeps on making money, people keep on wanting it, I'll make more movies. Sure. I'm not much of a book writer. Again, I'm not a fiction book fan, so I wouldn't do that myself. Comic books are a fun idea, but it's pretty much as expensive to pay an artist to draw a comic book as it is to just make a feature film at my level.
Yeah.
Like, it's pretty pricey, like the art for the CarousHELL 2 poster, that one piece of art was hundreds and hundreds of dollars. Multiply that by 32 pages of art.
Yeah.
For one issue, you're looking at like $5,000 to $10,000 if you're getting all this art custom from an artist. I can't draw, so I got to pay someone to do that. And if I'm putting that much money into a comic book, I may as well make a movie. But who knows, like I've had fun ideas of like, what if Duke and Robbie go to a cabin in the woods, and Robbie finds the Neko Meownicon from a Meowie Halloween, and he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna meet my mom," and then brings back everyone that Duke killed in the first movie as a zombie deadite, and now Duke has to kill them all again. Duke in space, obviously, gotta go to space. Very important.
Don't kill Hilly this time.
Oh no, she'll be the lead deadite, so she will die again, but she will have the most fun. I guarantee it.
Oh my gosh, you can't. I was just like, oh what? Oh, that's just. Oh, that was just so. I was just so bummed out. I was like, why do you have to go kill her for? They killed Lunchbox twice more, but I'm only saying that because she's actually very, very cute. She was very charming in her role, and I gotta say this right off the bat. I haven't said this before, but holy shit! Hats off to Aleen in the second one. That shocked the shit out of me. I did not expect that from her.
Yeah, she's fucking great. She was fighting for that role as we were writing it. I was just like, you still got to audition. Like, I am married to you, and you are the co-creator, but you still got to audition for this because I'm the director. And she was like, you're right. And she went against several other women. And Scott Lewis and I are the ones that sat down and decided, because I needed an impartial opinion. I couldn't just be me. And he also was the one just like, there's no fucking contest. Aleen is Ilsa. Like, she is going exactly as big as anyone should for this main villain character.
I'm going to come back to that in a second because I did not know that. We got another question from Cinderwild. What's your favorite Halloween candy, Steve?
Well, my favorite candy is Mallow Cups. But specifically Halloween candy. It used to be those really shitty, like, wax peanut butter and the colored paper that has no name and nobody really knows where they come from. But it's actually, those have finally been passed up by the Reese's Franken cups that are milk chocolate on the top and then green white chocolate on the bottom. Okay. I don't know why, but I really like those.
Okay. Let's see. It looks like CarousHELL 5, Cult of Duke. That's already happened. That's already happened in the Carousel. We're all in Duke's cult. Yeah.
Duke just possesses multiple people. Would be great. I'll get Brad Dourif to be in it.
Okay, so now I found out that we all found out that you and Aleen are married. I did not know that.
Yes.
That's awesome. I like I said, I mean, I was like, when she went for the gusto, and I'm like, holy crap, look at that. I mean, it was totally unexpected. I'm like, okay, that's the creator of Duke, and here she is, she's getting frisky. And
yeah,
I was like,
I do think it's really,
she was good.
I think it's really fun that Aleen literally created Duke, and then she plays the character that creates Duke.
Yes. Yeah. Isn't it something? It's very cute. It's very cute, and it works.
That wasn't even intended, but like I kind of realized, just like, oh, okay.
Let's see. If you could have an A-lister horror movie icon actor on one of your movies, who would you want it to be? Well, are we talking A-lister or are we talking horror movie icons? Because I would argue most horror movie icons are really A-listers. I was gonna say I think you already have one in Steve Rudzinski.
Steve is an amazing talent, but if he was an A-lister, I wouldn't be able to afford him. Let's be fair and realistic here. When I think A-lister, I'm saying like I cannot pay for this person.
Yeah, because did you find Steve through that? Was Steve word of mouth, or was did he open call for voice actors? Or
yeah, I open auditions for voice actors. We had like 50 guys audition for Duke. It was the most auditions for any singular character.
Yeah, there's a lot of voiceovers are really more popular than I thought. I'm thinking, there can't be all that many roles for voice actors, but
it's harder and harder, especially with Hollywood fucking over voice actors by hiring name actors over and over and over again. It's very frustrating.
It is very frustrating.
To answer that question,
anybody else with the voice of Duke?
Absolutely not.
I love his voice.
He is Duke, straight up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To answer the question of if I had to pick an A-lister from horror, I mean, I love Bruce Campbell, but I'd say Bruce is way more B-lister, still out of my price range. So I think Bruce Campbell is definitely a runner-up. But if I was thinking like big names that are really, really, really out of my price range, honestly, Sam Neill. I think he's an amazing horror actor that doesn't get to do that much horror, and I'd love to work with Sam Neill. I think he would fucking bring it in a movie of mine.
I think if Duke had a long lost brother, and he ran across him, I would love to see Jackie Earl Haley voice him.
I'd probably go with Brad Dourif.
Over Jackie?
Oh yeah,
I would too.
Brad's got a way better voice to me and a laugh. Oh man, that laugh.
Yeah, he got a laugh. I would have to see if I could hear Jackie laugh, but as far as just sheer menace, yeah, there's not a contest. Yeah, that's he's absolutely. People are suggesting more Duke, more CarousHELL movies. Duke 8, a Duke Miss Christmas, a Duke Miss Carol.
Oh, Duke Miss Carol. Okay, so 3 other killer objects visit Duke to tell him to change his ways. It happens right before CarousHELL 2. Because CarousHELL 2 starts at Christmas time. CarousHELL 8's a prequel. It takes place between 1 and 2. We got this figured out. Thank you, Cinder Wild. And I'll pay Disney a bunch of money to use Marley and Marley from the Muppets.
So the second one it discusses Duke's origins. So
Yes.
now we know that Duke, but we don't know exactly. We don't my first impression was Duke was a soldier. He was an American soldier that was captured during World War II, and that he was used as an experiment. But we're not entirely sure about that because it really doesn't tell you what Duke really was.
Otto does say that Duke was an American soldier taken prisoner by the Nazis and turned against his will. Otto does say that in the film, so that is definitely confirmed.
What did you decide to make the Nazis the bad guys? Is that to help get
Puppet
over
Master
Duke
3.
more as an anti-hero?
Puppet Master 3. I love the fact that Puppet Master 3 is about the puppets killing a bunch of fucking Nazis, and I wanted to kill a bunch of fucking Nazis.
Any movie that kills fucking right wingers getting nailed or
when Ilsa says you will lead the Führer's unholy creations, that's a direct Puppet Master 2 reference. It's Puppet Master 2, Toulon's unholy creations.
Nice. Yeah, I really like that.
Another Puppet Master lover.
Well, the first 3.
Yeah.
The first 3. Yeah, the first
and almost 4 and 5. I think if 4 and 5 was one movie, it would be my favorite one, but it feels too split apart and disjointed. Kind of like Toxic Avenger 2 and 3. If that was one movie, it'd be like perfect. It'd be like the Toxie movie, and it's not.
See, Puppet Master 3 had one of my favorite character actors ever. That was Richard Lynch. I mean, that guy was
yeah.
Richard Lynch is the shit. He's the man.
I did see Mr. Meathook here asking another question. Is there a chance of a My Tiny Uni spin-off movie? I'm going to go ahead and say no. I'm sorry. Again, the cost of animation is phenomenally high. So high that if I had the money to afford a single 30-minute cartoon episode, I'd be able to make 3 CarousHELLs. Because even Scott Lewis at first was just like, for the first movie, he's like, oh, it'd be great if we commissioned someone to do just like the intro video. So it could be like on the TV at the party, and we could even just loop it and use the same like intro, and it doesn't matter. But even commissioning a 30-second animation is like thousands of dollars. So there will not be a My Tiny Uni spinoff. Aleen does draw a lot of My Tiny Uni characters, so maybe there'll be a My Tiny Uni spinoff comic drawn by her. You can ask her and bother her about that, but I'm not going to fight for it.
Let's talk about the big scene in CarousHELL 2. Now, who came up with that one?
I'm sorry, what theme?
The big scene in CarousHELL 2. Who came up with that idea?
Oh, me. Because you mean the romance scene, right? Yeah.
That's
Well,
out there, Steve. That
well,
is
because my concept was Duke is James Bond. He's going to have a different hookup every entry of the series. No matter how many there are, every entry is going to have its own hookup scene. But I want them to be different every time. I don't want it to just...
Wouldn't Katrina have been different?
No, it was just another woman. It would have been another woman.
Maybe Katrina and Otto?
I mean, yes, the threesome idea was thought of, but I decided to make it, honestly, a little bit more endearing, a little bit more genuinely romantic, as opposed to just like a hookup fucking scene. So it to me, it helped humanize Duke. It helped humanize the character that Duke does make love to in this film. And the joke isn't them having sex. The joke is that this carousel unicorn is having sex still. And I think in that sense, the scene is not making fun of what's happening. It's just still weird and funny because of what Duke is specifically.
It's weird. I thought the first scene in the first movie was weird. I didn't think, I was like, that is like bizarre as hell, and, and I'm going like, oh, well, what do you know? They went and got weirder.
I'm going to go ahead and take Cinderwild's advice and make I Have No Horn and I Must Stab as the next subtitle, because that's fantastic. Big fan of I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream. And I do see Mr. Meathook and Surgeon saying it could be live action. It's just like, would you make a live action My Little Pony? If you would, fuck you.
What? A live action? Well, I mean, why not?
Okay, I mean, if you guys want to make me a bunch of life-size or animated ability unicorn puppets, feel free, but Robbie cost $2,500, and that was one fucking puppet. So if you want to make enough for a whole My Tiny Uni live-action film, feel free! Feel free! I have to give you permission! I won't even be mad.
How much was in discussing your fan mail? How many of the fans? How many unicorns have you been sent?
None.
You're kidding me.
Yeah, none.
Wow, none.
Goodness.
No one sent you any unicorns at all.
Nope.
That is what kind of fan mail did you get from the first movie? Did you get any lunchboxes?
No, the only fan mail I got was people saying, "Where's the sequel?" and me responding, "Fucking get more people to buy the first one, dipshit."
Yeah, so you don't know how. And I heard you say that the first movie wasn't released for 2 years. Now was that because you couldn't find a distributor? Or
no, it got picked up it got picked up for distribution within 2 months of us releasing it. It got picked up very quickly. The distributor was just very upfront and like honest, saying like, we really want this movie, we really like this movie, we really want this movie in our library, but we have a huge backlog, so we won't be able to release it for a couple of years. So like they didn't lie to me, they didn't scam me or anything like that. They were very upfront, and I appreciated that. But thankfully, me making the Meowies for the 2 years of nothing happening helped me keep my sanity as a creator and have something to take to conventions.
Wow, that's just I just don't get that. See, that's not the first time we've heard that with Wild Eye and sitting on a movie, and it's just like, to me, it's like, boy, if you're gonna fucking get a movie, God, you gotta release it within at least 6-7 months of getting it, at least.
I mean, if they had a backlog, and again, like, if, to be fair, when you're a distributor, you want to have like a consistent stream of movies. If you released everything you picked up like within that short amount of time, it is very possible you could get to a point where you don't have anything to release for a couple of months. And like for a distributor like that, where you want to keep on pumping out new stuff, having something fresh, and again, like especially them, they are a distributor that has a dedicated fan base. Like Full Moon, like Troma, there are people that review just Wild Eye movies, really, and that's part of the reason why I went with them. So, I mean, I can understand it. And again, it would have been different if they picked up the movie and said, it'll be out soon, and then I heard nothing for 2 years. Then I'd be pissed. Yeah. But they were very upfront about it. I accepted the terms. I knew what I was signing up for. So, like, there's, like, no negative take when it comes to that for me.
Yeah. I was just thinking that once the movie got out there, I would think that the buzz, because I mean, I was hearing about CarousHELL way before I got my copy. I've been hearing about it and about a killer unicorn, and all that, and I was like, that's right up my alley. And so, I heard about it, and there was a nice buzz going on about CarousHELL, at least out here in Michigan, anyway. And and then when I got mine, you know, I was like, yeah, this is just excellent. I really, it made my top 20 list. I think you finished, you know, as far as my Wild Eyes go. Yeah, it all depends which day you ask me, but it's either you or Velocipaster. That's been my favorite Wild Eye movie.
Yeah, and I know the guys that made that; they're great guys. Shout out to Jesse Goldsberry, the producer of Velocipaster, who was in my VG Spoofs online series back in 2008.
Man, maybe you and Brendan can hook up and come up with something magical.
Maybe
you and Aleen and Brendan. Holy shit! I hate to. Wow, that would be crazy.
I see a couple more questions here. Is Lunchbox's collection yours? It's half mine. I mean, no, it's not half mine. That's a lie. The only Lunchbox in Lunchbox's collection that's mine was the Evil Dead Lunchbox. The rest are just random Lunchboxes that Aleen found and like gathered because she knew it was in the movie. So we still have a lot of them.
And if you want to send Steve and Aleen Lunchboxes, we'll leave that address up for you in the description box below.
If you had, Cinderwild's asking, if I had to worship a god, which god would I choose and why? I would go with the goddess Anput, who is the wife of Anubis, because she is she's hot. I mean, she's a hot dog lady. I didn't know what a fursona was before I knew who Anput was. But let's just say I learned a few things about myself. I'm a horny wolf.
I agree with you. Mr. Mayhook. CarousHEll is the best movie distributed by Wild Eye. It definitely is. I mean, when it comes down to like coming down to horror comedy, yeah, you guys, it's a funny movie. I like the second one a lot. I do. I thought that, but your money that they spent on that movie, you put some pretty good special effects there in the end. That must have cost a pretty penny.
I mean, I always, I've been working with Cody Rook since 2015. The first movie we worked on together was Red Christmas, and then he did the werewolf makeup for The Survivors, and then he did CarousHEll, and then he made the Demon Dog in A Meowie Halloween, and now he's back for CarousHEll 2, along with Gabriella Ventura. And it's always the same thing. I basically go to Cody with the script. I'm like, about how much money do you want? Or I'll say, okay, I have this much money in the budget for effects. Is this possible? And he says, yeah, sure. I'm like, okay, this check is your money for the effects and for your pay. You divvy it up however you want. If you could keep 90% of the money for yourself and still make the movies look good, I don't care. You can do that. I'm trusting you. And he's always the guy that kicks everything up a notch. In CarousHEll 1, the smoking guy that's Cody himself. But in the script, that guy just gets his head punched off a la Friday the 13th Part 8 when the guy's boxing Jason.
Right.
Cody was the one that said, hey, what if I just Pez dispense this character's head? The hoof goes up and the head just splits in half. I'm like, I gave you the money, Cody. If you can make it better, I give you full creative permission. And the other thing I do on CarousHEll 1 and 2 is just, again, that sort of idea that I know I'm not the best at everything. I know I'm not the expert at everything. Cody is the expert at the effects. Cody is the expert at knowing how things need to look and where the camera needs to be. So when the effects are on screen in CarousHEll 1 and 2, that's Cody basically directing. I take a step back. I give the generic idea and give the actors some emotional stuff, but Cody is talking to the actors directly, here's where I need to look. This is going to be the physical action. This is going to be what the effect does. He talks to Scott this effect's going to look best if you put the camera here or here or here. I let Cody do that because I know he knows what to look for. And I'm right, because the effects in CarousHEll 1 and 2 both look fucking great. And that's not me. It's important to me that they're in the movie. I made sure that they're in the movie. I pay for them to be in the movie. But at the end of the day, those look so good because of Cody, and now in CarousHEll 2 because of Cody and Gabby, and me trusting them, knowing that I'm not going to make it look better than they can.
Cinderwild saying same question to the host. If you had to worship a god, which god would you choose and why? Oh, if we had to worship like an Egyptian god.
I think just any god.
Well, if I had to do that, then I think I'd probably go with the mighty Isis.
Isis, okay.
Why not? Yeah. Especially if she comes out looking like Joanna Cameron.
Also known as a stet, or is it a test?
I think, what was it, Hapachet? What's her name? I think her real Egyptian name was Hapachet. I think that's where part of her powers came from. Powers over the animals and the weather.
Okay.
Yeah. God. 70s TV shows for 100, please. So yeah, so I mean, obviously
I would have to go with Zeus.
Zeus.
Yeah.
Is that for sexual reasons?
Don't open that can.
No.
Zeus has the reputation. Is all I'm saying. It's he's going to turn into a swan, and you know what's going to happen.
Looks like he can get things done.
I knew it. Here we go. So what's next for you, Steve? I mean, now where are you going to take CarousHELL to? Are you going to try to find a distributor? Do you have any leads about where you want to take it? Is anybody approaching?
Nope. You put a movie into distribution, you're making no money. CarousHELL 1 has a ton of fans, a ton of people that love CarousHELL. Aleen and I have never seen a fucking cent for that movie. We probably never will. The producer never will. He's the one that paid for it.
Now, how does that work? Don't you have a right to sit there and ask for your, I want to see how many physical copies sold?
Yeah, you get that every 4 to 6 months. You absolutely see how many physical copies sold.
And you didn't make any money off that movie because that movie got a huge buzz.
It's one part. People don't buy movies as much as they used to anymore. People just want to stream everything, and streaming pays like 1 cent per hour streamed. And keep in mind, that's through a distributor. So, Amazon is paying Wild Eye 1 penny when someone streams CarousHELL on Amazon. And then I get 60% of that penny. I'm not making money off of this. Plus, with the case with any distributor, they charge stuff up front. And some distributors charge more than they should in some areas, and some are very fair. I thought that Wild Eye was very fair when it came to the amount that they charged to cut a new trailer, for example, but I think that the amount that they charged for the DVD authoring was a little fucking ridiculous. So you're in the red starting with any distributor. Any distributor, you're starting in the red, and your sales go towards paying off that red before they start cutting you checks. And CarousHELL 1 is still in the red between what Wild Eye charged up front, which again, all distributors do, and just the fact that, I've sold hundreds and hundreds of copies of CarousHELL 1 through Wild Eye.
Yeah.
That's still nowhere near enough compared to how many people have talked about CarousHELL, how many people say that they like CarousHELL. I've been guests in Discords that I get asked to come to a screening, and it's like 200 people that are all like, "Oh, CarousHELL is one of my favorite movies," and none of them bought the movie physically. They just streamed it, and that's it, because entertainment is disposable now. That's what streaming did. It's disposable. You watch it once, then you move on to the next thing on your infinite streaming service, and that's just one service. Never mind, you got Tubi TV, you got Prime Video, you got HBO Max now, you got Disney Plus, you got YouTube itself. You have all of these streaming services that have more content than you can ever possibly consume. So most people just don't care anymore. They don't buy the movies. They don't actually support the movies. They watch it once, I get a penny, and then those same people are coming to me in my email saying, "Where's the sequel?" And it's frustrating as a creator, and that's why, and I credit, the reason why CarousHELL 2 exists is because of Ben Deedles. My good friend, Ben Deedles, who said, I kept telling him, all these people keep on asking for CarousHELL 2, but CarousHELL 1 is still in the red, it's not making any money, it's going to be years before we even consider breaking even. Ben Deedles said, fuck it, man. You got all these people claiming they want CarousHELL 2. Make them put their money where their mouth is and start a Kickstarter. And if they raise the money for you, now you can make CarousHELL 2. And maybe you'll actually make some money off of CarousHELL, because if they're paying for the budget up front, every single sale will finally be profit. And so I listened to him. I made a Kickstarter. The fans shut me up. Totally, I'll take that loss. And they raised $10,000 to make CarousHELL 2. It was still an uphill battle, I would like to say. It was not a sure thing like a lot of people assumed it would be, or like people thought it would be, that it'd be like a super easy thing to do. It was an uphill battle to the week of it ending. But we got it. Then I made CarousHELL 2, and I'm very happy with it. I'm very proud of it. It's probably the most important movie that I've made. And finally, 5 years after coming up with CarousHELL, when we sell a copy of CarousHELL 2, Aleen and I are finally actually making money off of it. And it is a really good feeling. Because, you know, a big reason why I do this is because I want to make people smile. And I mean that. A big motivation is I want to make people happy. I want to make people smile. I want to make people laugh and feel good. But
Yeah,
the other half, no argument, is money. I need money to eat. I need money to pay my mortgage.
I was gonna say, well, my only thing is I would like to, you know, like doing these small interviews like we're doing tonight. Part of my job is to actually get people to go out there and get the movie. You know, buy the movie.
Yeah.
You know, that's really what I can, you know, tell people to do. Buy it.
Which we appreciate.
I think part of it too is what really sucks is you're right about the physical media. You know, part of it is now there's, you know, like Family Video went belly up. That took 600 stores with it. And you know, and now it seems like, you know, there's less and less physical media room on the shelf. So, you know, finding space on there, you know, well, yeah, but Disney wants a quarter of our space. Warner Brothers wants a quarter of our space. You know, and you know, and it's like it's hard to find room now for small movies such as yourself. Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's a good question. It says, "What's your experience with your YouTube channel?" Yeah, you have a pretty big channel, Steve. I didn't realize that you were you have a nice presence on YouTube.
It's okay.
Is your channel monetized now?
No, they unmonetized it around the same time I was making CarousHELL 1, because it was monetized for a while, and it took 4 years to make $100. And then when I was making CarousHELL 1, YouTube suddenly introduced new rules where you had to have so many minutes watched a month in order to be monetized. And since I was making a movie and not releasing on anything on YouTube, I didn't make it to that minute requirement. And they didn't announce those requirements till like a week before they changed it. And so at that point, it took me that many years to make $100 on YouTube. Ain't making any money on YouTube. It's almost impossible to make money on YouTube unless you're already very firmly established. And I've been on YouTube since almost day one. Like within the first year of YouTube, I had an account. I remember I was one of the YouTube directors, which meant I was one of the few that was allowed to upload videos longer than 10 minutes. That was a big deal at the time. And I still couldn't do anything with YouTube. So I just said, fuck it. I'm using YouTube for promotion, for posting trailers, and maybe once in a while posting a short on there that isn't being posted to Steve Buster. And again, it's just from a marketing tactic. It's not at all from a money-making tactic at that point.
So how has the movie been received so far? What kind of early feedback are you getting?
So far, the reviews have been phenomenal. Like, everyone has really understood what I did. Like, I was so nervous with this one because, again, this movie is very different from the first film. The first film is a straight-up slasher movie. This one is not. You know, still horror elements, still kills and stuff, but it is not a slasher movie.
No.
So I didn't know what people think. It was the story I wanted to tell. I was sticking to my guns. I was doing the movie I wanted to do, but at the end of the day, fans are deciding whether it's going to work or not. And everyone has so far really liked it. You know, I definitely have a good number of people that say that they prefer 1 because they find it more fun, but they still like 2. And I still count that as a win. There's 2 completely different films, and it's so subjective that it makes sense that you would prefer 1. That's totally fine. I have some people saying they can't choose, and I have some people saying that they like 2 even more. So it's a great array of subjective opinions that are still completely overwhelmingly positive. I think my favorite soundbite so far came from Mac Brewer on Horror Society, where this is verbatim, I don't remember it exactly, but he was just like, Steve Rudzinski took a huge fucking gamble with CarousHELL 2, and it absolutely pays off. Like, the consistent thing is I wasn't expecting this movie, and I'm very happy that I got this movie.
Yeah, I mean, I'll touch back again with you, but I thought I was really impressed with the fact that you put some thought in that script as far as you know, it could have been easy just to play it off and fluff and everything else, but you put some thought behind it, you know, with due consequences. Like, there wasn't going to be this, like, it wasn't just like I'm going to forget. Everybody's going to forget about what happened in the first movie. They're going to be so happy to see Duke. No one's going to even think about the first movie. And, you know, they're going to see what he's going to do, how many people he's going to kill or anything else. I really like the fact of the idea that you guys went with that, him staying with that woman, with the mom of the first kids. And the fact that I really thought that was actually really interesting and a very strong writing, you know, in a sense. And that sounds funny, talking about a fantasy movie like this, but you know what? It's like, what, you know, I'm with you. I'm more of a script guy. I mean, I want a good story. Yeah, I wish. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I wish there had been a couple more kills in the first few minutes.
Sure.
You know, because you know I like that. But once I got,
it's like we start with 3 kills, rapid fire, and then nothing happens.
Right.
But that's always important to me in these sorts of movies. I always say you need to kill within the first couple of minutes. Sure. So if you ever notice in my horror movies, that's what happens. Whether it's Everyone Must Die or the CarousHELL movies, someone dies within a couple of minutes because I want people to know that this is not a movie where you have to wait the entire movie to get to that part.
I thought it was, you know, I just thought it was really well done. I mean, as far as that goes, yeah, I'm still processing the auto scene though. I'm just so, I just could not believe you just did that. I was just so laughing. I was like, this is the most bizarre thing I've ever seen, and I've seen, and I just got done watching The Human Centipede, and Otto and Duke are still, you know, how does Steve like how do you like voice acting something like that? Did he give you? Did he come up there and go like, "Oh, come on"?
No, not at all. He was totally signed on from the start. Yeah, and like I gave him the script. You know, I mean, he got the part. I gave him the script, told him basically what I wanted, and every single line has like 3 or 4 different takes with different inflections and different performances. And then Scott and I picked the ones that we liked the most.
Okay. So how soon do you think? We'll get an inkling about how well the second one will do? I mean,
I don't know. I have a personal monetary goal in mind before I officially decide on CarousHELL 3. I don't need to talk about that specifically publicly. It's not a crazy number for sure, but it's a number that I feel will show growth in the franchise and like really prove that yes, we should keep going as opposed to me running in place making this, that we're actually moving forward if we make the third. So if we reach that, however long it takes, then I'll do CarousHELL 3. The next thing is the Shingles movie that I was hired to make. That I think as of right now, the Indiegogo is still going. So search for Shingles the movie on Google. You'll find the Indiegogo, pre-order DVD. It's going to be a fun horror anthology where I make all of the stories, which I find interesting. We got possessed ventriloquist dummies. We got a garden gnome that shits cocaine and aliens, maybe zombies. You know, who knows? It's going to be a weird one. But that's going to be my focus aside from selling CarousHELL 2, which is, you know, this is my baby. Like I said, it's not the biggest movie that I made, but it feels like the most important simply from an emotional standpoint, if nothing else.
I'm going to let people. Go ahead, Jennifer.
Steve, you have turned my son into a horror fan through CarousHELL.
Great.
He used to hate whenever I was watching a horror movie, which is a lot of the time, and just go and leave the room. And then one day he saw CarousHELL with me. He has autism, but he's 27. And he was just into it, trying to figure out what was happening, because that's how he he was looking at it like he was Spock.
Yeah.
But he loved it. And I haven't told him about CarousHELL 2 yet, because I'm going to I'm going to pre-order and try to get it to him for Christmas.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah. Because I'm a physical media person too.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. We appreciate that.
Yeah. And this is what he has on the table every time he watches CarousHELL.
Yeah. I love it. I love that. Yeah. Yeah, unicorns are a lot of fun now. That's all I got to say about that. Every time I see unicorns, I just think that's why I always that's why I always send those little notes. Duke sighting. I send it to you and Steve, and we're like, there's a Duke sighting. Like, you can't look at look at unicorns anymore without thinking about Duke.
No,
no, you really can't. It's a cultural thing. It's a cultural phenomenon. I'm going to open up the chat here real quick. If anybody wants to send a few questions to Steve's way, that'll be awesome. Feel free to drop some questions. What's it like? What's it like working with your wife on a movie set, Steve?
Oh, that's good. You know, and we already know each other well. We were able to get along. We were able to work together really, really well. We're definitely a great team. Sometimes we butt heads because I get stressed out, and I unfortunately take it out on her a little bit more than I would take it out on anyone else, just because I know that she knows I'm not malicious, whereas like the random strangers that we're working with may not know that. But at the end of the day, I definitely try to take a step back and like understand something that I said that might have been just unfair, or to take it out on her when it had nothing to do with her or what have you. So I fully admit to that negative aspect of myself. But, you know, we've been together 10 years, so it definitely isn't something that's big of a deal, clearly.
Well, would you describe yourself as a perfectionist?
No, God, no. Absolutely not. I absolutely have the idea of good enough, moving on. Because the whole project is what matters, not a single scene, not a single shot. If I get it as close as possible, or kind of there, or it works and we need to move on because of timing, we're fucking moving on. I've never in my life been a perfectionist. I think perfectionism kills creativity. I think it kills projects. I've been on too many projects where the creator was a perfectionist, and all of a sudden we're 8 months past schedule and he's just hemorrhaging money on a project because he needs to film a shot 40 fucking times with no different direction because this one effect didn't go exactly the way he envisioned. I don't do that.
Thank you, Mr. Bones. Yes. Please feel free to. We're going to put Steve's YouTube on here. Please feel to connect with Steve and drop some positive comments on there. Of course, and please consider subscribing to the Miss Jennifer Tochi as well. She is the co-hostess with us on the Midnight Hour. So please do that. That'll be awesome. Steve, I can't thank you enough, man. This has been awesome. I was looking forward to this tremendously. You know, I'm so happy CarousHELL 2 came out. We're so glad to see Duke again. It's definitely one of my favorite. Like I said, it's definitely one of my favorite characters. It's a lot of fun. And any movie that shows killing Nazis in it, you already know it's going to be on my top 10 list.
Absolutely, good.
Oh hell yes! The more, the better. And congratulations on you and your cast for a fun movie. You guys worked really hard. It does come out on there on the screen. I like the special effects. A lot of fun. A lot of fun there. The rainbow was cool. The magic part of it was really interesting and very creative. I just thoroughly thought it was it was a lot of fun. Let's see. What's the non-YouTube site of yours you keep mentioning? Yeah, Steve Busters, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, this is a good segue to start wrapping things up. So, I'll say that the number one way to support me and check out my stuff is buying physical, silverspotlightfilms.com. That is going to be the home for all of my physical products, all of my DVDs, all of my Blu-rays, but also all of my posters. The CarousHELL deck building game can be bought there. I have a 10-year anniversary music vinyl where the side A is like all the vocal tracks from my movies, and then side B is Steve Abortz's favorite compositions from the past 10 years. So that's a really cool thing. We still have a couple of set-used, autographed CarousHELL 2 scripts up for sale at silverspotlightfilms.com. I think they're $25. But that's physical. And I understand things have been a little weird the past couple of years, so maybe you can't afford to buy 12 fucking movies. I understand. That's a lot of movies. So if you want to check out all of my stuff, if you prefer digital, I came up with something that was a better way to support me digitally than just streaming for, again, how low streaming websites pay. And that's stevebuster.com. As in Blockbuster, but it's Steve Buster. It's like $2.99 a month. It's a few bucks a month. And it has all of my movies. It has all of the bonus features from my movies. It has older movies upscaled to HD that I don't sell anymore because I'm ashamed of them, but the fans wanted them, including bonus features where I get heavily drunk and then shit talk on these movies. I re-released the online series I did with Henrik Kuto, Two's a Crowd. Final Mix, as I call it, because it's got upscaled to HD. That's on Steve Buster, and there's also a bunch of, in addition to like the older re-release exclusives that aren't available physically anymore, we've also shot a few exclusives for the service, such as like the new Butter that's coming out next week, a couple of shorts that we shot specifically for Steve Buster. Ben Deedles, Blake O'Donnell, and I filmed a 20-minute short film called Lost in Cleveland. That's a lot of fun, and we made it just for Steve Buster. So as of right now, there's like 27 or 28 hours worth of content on there. And on November 1st, CarousHELL 2 will be on Steve Buster as well, bringing the total hour amount of content up to 30 hours. And the other great thing with this is that these are links that you can permanently keep even after you unsubscribe. Just please don't fucking share them, for the love of God. That's all I'm asking. Just don't share them with people. Pay $3, unsubscribe, and keep them forever. That I don't mind, but just don't share them, please.
Yeah. Well, your fans won't do that. Let's see. It says stevebuster.com takes me to OnlyFans.
Yes, it's hosted on OnlyFans because it's a great creator-based website where I'm able to really control what the timeline looks like and how I host things and how I privatize things. And OnlyFans lets creators keep a way bigger cut of the money than Patreon does, while not having as many rules about nudity and stuff as Patreon does, which, since a lot of my movies are horror films with nudity, I didn't want to roll the dice with Patreon. So OnlyFans is the home of stevebuster.com.
Okay. I can get that. I can understand that. All right. I tell you what, I want to thank Steve for coming out and hanging out with us and talking unicorns and lunchboxes and Nazi killing Duke. Love it. Love it. CarousHELL 2, the second, is out now. It's out now. You can get it through silverpictures.com.
Silver Spotlight Films.
silverspotlightfilms.com. We'll put all that information down in the description box below. Anybody wants to mention the interview? Is it okay if I do this? If anybody orders through and mentions this interview, can you autograph their physical copy?
Yeah, for sure. I will say that if you buy the copy from Silver Spotlight Films, there's a notes part of like the buying page. Just put in the notes that you want it signed, and I'll sign it. Yeah. I don't do it automatically because of like the volume and stuff, and that would take too long. But anyone that explicitly asks for it, I'll just do it.
Yeah, just tell them that the Cheetah sent you, and since we all know that the Cheetah is Steve's favorite cat, yes, he'll remember you. All right. See, I knew this interview was going to rock. I'm going to let you go, Steve. Thank you so much. I want to thank everybody in the chat again so much for hanging out with us. We'll be back next week. I got to do the calendar before we end this. So next week, our calendar is, we have my friend Phil Maresca from Philco Events will be here with us on Tuesday. Next Wednesday, we will have Caslin Rose will be here with us. And then next Thursday, a week from today, we will have our Marshall from Mellow Nomadic Adventures. He'll be here, and he'll be talking about van life and music and working on films and all that good stuff. Thank you so much for showing up. I really appreciate you guys' support. And yeah, we will see you for the next one. Jennifer, thank you so much, Jennifer, for hanging out with us tonight. You made this a lot of fun. I appreciate it very much. Until the next one, peace. Stay where you're at, Steve.
I'm sorry?
Stay where you're at.
Oh, silverspotlightfilms.com. Steve Buster.